everybody, and welcome to Robin's House. Today I want to talk to you about the National Scrapbooking Day workshop that is called Many Wishes. And I want to talk to you about it because of a few reasons. Number one, they are super simple cards in that all it really uses is a card base and some ink and maybe a smidgelet of paper on a few of them. So the recreatability and the ease of these cards is awesome. But I wanted to talk to you about a few other things as well. For example, in this kit, it requests the use of abandoned coral, which I have, tattered rose, which I don't. So I used antique linen instead. Now, tattered rose has a little bit of pink in it, but I figured my antique linen will just kind of take away the pink of the abandoned coral and it'll be okay. Spiced marmalade and then peeled paint. So peeled paint is another green, but I only have mowed lawn. So my projects, I use mowed lawn instead. And then I'll have a technique at the end where if you don't have any of it, you can still do stuff. So this, and I'm going to do a quick example of this. So like I was saying, to do this card, all you practically need is a card base. And then, so you take the stencil. So it comes with two stencils, a stencil for the flower and a stencil for the, well, that's not very good, a stencil for the leaves. So I'm just gonna center my thing. So you want to leave room for your message. And then you take your mini blending tool. And I don't know if you can tell, I think you kind of can. One side of my tool is darker than the other side, and that's because I use it at an angle. I try to put ink on one side and keep it there, because if you don't, if you just use the whole thing and just pop it in there, you'll get these circles. And well, I'm not getting these circles, but you get circles on your project and they never leave. So it's much better if you start in a small section and then work your way away, because sometimes you just get too much ink on there. And I'm not showing it very well, but it's just better. That's not a great reason. But anyway, so on this card, for example, I would just take my abandoned coral, and I'm just going to rub in here. I'm trying really hard to not make you seasick, so it's going to take me a little bit longer. And I'm not going to, the nice thing about these inks is if you do it not very much, you have a really light look. And if you go over it and over it and over it, it gets really dark and rich. So it's really how much time you put into it and how much you want it to look. So you can see that I have dark places. I can make some of them darker even. So I have dark places and I have light places, and you know, that makes sense. You might have darker on the inside of the flower and lighter on the outside. You could also have vice versa, like I did on this one, where the lighter is on the inside and the darker is on the outside. But the main thing is you have a stencil, so there's no thinking. You just rub around until you have the color that you want. And then it's time to look at that. You pick it up and those lines are just gorgeous white. So while we're here, if you did want to blend in with another color, so let's say we use this antique linen. And I need to find I'm going to take off my abandoned coral, put on my antique linen one. So say for pretend I had this all down, but instead of having the white petals on the lighter petals on the outside, I want to actually turn them even lighter and maybe even oranger. And I'm trying not to. If you need to, you can add another finger over on there. So let's see. Get up and see how that looks. That added kind of a richness by mixing the two colors together. And then we also, it's time, now that we've added that, it is time to do the green. So the stencil is made to fit in one particular spot on these two flowers. So as you're deciding, of course, where to put the pink flower, you want to make sure you're leaving room for your leaves. So, and then those are kind of the same thing. You don't have to be too careful because there's a stencil and you just kind of go in the space that you're allowed. And then again, the lighter and the darker is just more color if you want to add. So see how simple and fast that is. Now, this card, after you put the message on, add a strip of paper and some gems, it's practically done. But what if you didn't have all the inks? What if you only had one or two colors and they weren't a green at all? So let's say we're going to build the same style of card. And I'm just going to do real fast here with my abandoned coral. And I'm not even going to try to touch the outsides. And I'm going to do this fast, so you just watch. And, okay, so there we go. And then I happen to also have some of the orange marmalade. And you can see on the orange marmalade, I've also managed to keep it all on one side. And then, so this time, I'm going to do the outsides. And I'm going to blend that color in there. And this one will give me a totally different look because I've taken a pretty dark shade of color that I'm adding to this, but I'm just trying to carefully keep it on those edges. And then when you do that, then you can take the abandoned coral again. You can go over some of the colors a little bit more. So it just doesn't take long at all. And it looks so pretty. And then just kind of take a little bit more of the orange marmalade and just buff it around a little bit. And look again, it's so pretty. And then now we come to the tiny bit of trouble where, say for pretend you don't have mowed lawn or peeled paint or anything. So I'm bringing in, I have sage. So instead of doing those, and that would probably be okay. I'm going to use a sponge. And I'm going to take my sponge and I'm going to sponge with my regular ink. And you know, it looks different than when using the distressed oxide, but it doesn't look bad. And in fact, in some ways, it looks really cool because look at the difference in these leaves. So these are the mowed lawn, I think. And, you know, and then this one is the sponge. And just because of the movement of the sponge and the way the ink goes on the sponge, you can kind of see that one side of it gets kind of a little darker than the other side. And so it gives a little bit more depth. So I think that just using the regular ink on this looks just fine as well. And then you just dress this up a little bit and you've got a card that looks real cute. And it's quite a bit dressier than something like this, but it's basically using the exact same things. So it's very easy. And then there's one other thing that one could do to add a little bit of touch to this, and that is, what if you had your thing on and you used your journaling pen to outline your flower? Takes a little bit more time than I planned on it taking. Let me see if I can pause this for a sec. So you can outline all these images and then you come up with a very different look for the same thing. Of course, you might want to do the leaves as well, but that is a very simple deviation from what they were doing. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know if this was helpful. Happy crafting.